Michael Plessis, and I'll be presenting my project on semantic similarity by learning from other languages. The goal of this is to calculate the similarity of low resource languages and other languages. And I'll be doing this by fine-tuning a SentenceBERT model on other possibly related languages. And I'll get more into what that means. But first, what is semantic similarity? So, as an example, if we have the two sentences, my cat jumped onto the counter versus my cat leaped up to the counter. Those sentences essentially convey the same idea and the same message, so they're quite semantically similar. Versus, for example, or compared to the sentences, I really like toast versus I graduated university, they have nothing to do with each other, and so they have a very low semantic similarity. And now for the whole idea of my project. So, it is quite commonly believed that people find it easier to learn another language when they already know one or more languages, and that many languages are actually they borrow ideas when they're quite related. So for example, if we look at these two sentences, one in German, one Dutch, they're both about a cat and so something of the sort. And while they're not exactly the same, they're quite similar. I mean, cat is almost the same. They both start with these I words, the H word and E word. So they're not exactly the same, but they're quite similar. So I thought, if we take, for example, a low resource language like Punjabi, then maybe we can train the model on other languages, and by learning these other languages, it will improve its ability to calculate semantic similarity in some other language. I did this using the SemRel 2024 dataset, which has a total of 14 languages and sentence pairs and labels for each of those 14 languages, both a training set and test set. The method I did for this was, first, I pre-processed my data, in which I converted all letters to lowercase and removed punctuation. It is usually more pre-processing usually done, such as removing stop words and stemming or lemmatization, but due to the fact that you cannot easily do such things for other low resource languages, I decided to go for the bare minimum and keep all languages equal. As for the training, I first evaluated the base model, and the base model was a multilingual SentenceBERT model. So the multilingual model is trained on, I believe, over 50 languages, and some of those languages were in my data set, some were not. And after the model was first evaluated, it was fine-tuned on a language, and then evaluated again, and then fine-tuned on the next language and evaluated again until there were no more languages to fine-tune it on. Over here on the bottom left, you can see a quick graph of the training loss over the steps, where it was taken every 10 training steps, the loss was taken. As you can see, it starts quite high and drops low, and then shoots up again and low and shoots up again. It shoots up usually when it swaps to a new language. So we'll start to a new language. For example, if it goes from Afrikaans to Spanish, it shoots up again, but it quite quickly goes quite lower, and seems to stabilize around this low point. As for the results, I will not show them all here. I do have quite a few. I tested my model both with 5 epochs per language and 10 epochs per language, and then I tested the model again with 5 epochs per language, but no Spanish. And that's because, if you notice here, as soon as the model learns Spanish, its performance dropped. As for determining the performance, I use both the Spearman and Pearson similarity, as that is quite good for when you're comparing semantic similarity. Now, for an important part, if we look at the second table, has an average of Spearman and both Pearson of 0.41. So that was on the base model. After training through all the languages, the average went up to 0.53 and 0.54. So there was actually quite a substantial improvement from training on these other languages. And as you may have noticed, for Spanish, the values are not a number. This is due to the fact that the dataset I was given does not have labels for the testing set for Spanish, as I believe was used in the competition. So thank you. That is just a quick overview of my project. There's a lot more detail and a lot more finer things that happened in my that you can actually read in my project report.